welcome back to another Wheel Wednesday. I haven't done this in 2 weeks or something, so I'm basically super rusty and I've never done it before, basically. Anyway, today's Wheel Wednesday prompt was by Voorhees, which was Ancient Egyptian Space Pirates, which, honestly, the hardest part of this was coming up with the idea of what to do, and the pirate part is kind of a just trust me, bro, because you can't really tell that they're pirates from the final drawing. But you know, just trust me, they are. Yeah, for sure. I also didn't, I didn't look into every single symbol or anything from ancient Egypt on what everything 100% meant. I'll get to certain stuff when it happens, but yeah, I mean, I just did what I think looked good, not what may be accurate. And to start off, I tried to make it look like space. Just ignore this. None of this ends up staying the way it is. Trying to make the outside of the windows look like space, so you know that it is in space and not just, you know, underground or in... Well, I'm not even sure if you'd be able to tell if it's a ship if there was no windows to outside, but it's supposed to be a ship, and this is supposed to be like the command seat / captain seat, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm putting this jackal-headed fellow inside that seat with like the... I am not sure what they're actually called, but the headpiece of the pharaoh and those like the shoulder drapery where eventually it is like gold and blue, but as of now it's just weird orangey brown, but it'll get there. I also, when thinking of the prompt, thought of the Necrons from Warhammer 40k, but I didn't want to just do Necrons, so I shoved that out of my mind, except for the part where, like, they're mechanically, which I only really showed with the gold inlays on their flesh, and how instead of having actual eyeballs, they have weird gold, like, slots. I don't really know what to call them. I thought they looked good enough. I mean, they're in the eye slot, so they come off as eyes, and they look like you can see through them. So they're eyeballs. There's that head drapery piece that I was talking about that I don't know the name of, but I know it was to represent like pharaohs, and I'm not sure how many Egyptian gods wore it, but I know some of them did, or at least it looked like they did. So, you know, do it on there. Yep, 10 out of 10 cultural analysis here. And eventually I also put the Ankh on the chest, just because in my mind, with thinking of the Necrons and the mechanically-esque-ness of these characters that I was going for, I was thinking of them having eternal life through technology. So that's why I used the Ankh symbol right on the chest, because I did know that one meant eternal life. Here it is. I'm adding it in right now. Yep. And it's not like a necklace or anything, like it is attached there. Anyway, what to talk about now? To do the gold, the way I do metal is having like a dark color, like a very dark color, a mid-tone color, and then a very bright color. Just because when I'm doing something shiny, such as metal, having that very large contrast looks a lot better, at least to me. I don't know if that's how like you're actually supposed to do metal, but that's how I do it, and I think it looks fine. Right there I realized that I did a oopsie and had an airbrush going off of the chair thing into the darkness of the background. because I forgot to alpha lock the layer apparently at some point when I used the airbrush. So I fixed that by just erasing all that extra stuff. Now I'm adding more of those gold inlays to the body, because just on the head, you know, it doesn't really make, well, I mean, it makes perfect sense or whatever, as much sense as this can make, but I thought to tie it together more, it should be on more than just the head, so I put it on the arms. And then it's probably on the legs, but you can't see those, so that's another just, you have to trust me. What to talk about now? The outside of the ship being that weird space stuff, I tried to make it look like a nebula on that weird blue blobby thing. And then on the other side, where it's just some colors, I was thinking I'd just get back to it, and I do get back to it eventually by completely redoing both windows, because I didn't like them. And now this part, I was thinking to mix in the technology. It would be like a breathing tube directly into, you know, the lungs. And then I decide, no, I'm just going to put it on the head. So I end up just kind of making it like a gas mask. With more gold, of course. And then I get rid of this tube right there. And just put it over the shoulders. Yep. Real intense stuff here. Real master of design, you could say. Add more shading. I wanted to do more dynamic lighting in this, just because of how much stuff is being lit in weird ways. Like, assumedly, there's another window in front of this guy that's also showing space, and the windows that you can see of the space outside are really colorful. And eventually, I add red lights on the inside, and he's covered in gold, which is shiny. So there's a lot of stuff going on with light here. And did I succeed in making it dynamic in the end? Sure, yeah, sure. I mean, you can judge for yourself, but it could have definitely been a lot better. And now here, I'm adding in the plural part of pirates. Making a second one. Although this one has I'm not sure what kind of bird it is. I feel like it's an ibis. But I'm just kind of pulling that out of my knowledge banks. I did not look up what that exact bird was. But it is the very long-billed bird that I'm not sure which ancient Egyptian god is. And I'm not going to guess, because I'll probably get it wrong. But it's one of those. You know the one. Now here I'm adding red lights inside the ship, because otherwise there was no lights inside the ship, and that probably is not smart inside of a spaceship. Adding multiply layer to, again, go with that dynamic lighting I was going with, and then a color dodge layer to add in those red lights that are now inside the ship. Since I added those much later in the design than doing the rest of the body. And now I work on the ship a lot because it was kind of lacking, and I finally get around to fixing the outer space stuff, and by fixing, I mean I change it. I don't know if it's better. I think this is a lot better than those blobs, but I feel like it could have been a lot better than what this final thing is, if that makes sense. I just was thinking of doing nebula-esque things, but I didn't look up a nebula for reference. I just kind of winged it, as always. I mean, I did use a reference for the pose and, like, some of the look. I literally just looked up ancient Egypt on Google, though, so, you know, not very in-depth. But, you know, that's what I do. Anyway, thanks for watching. until next week, or if I feel like doing a voiceover sometime sooner. I don't know, no promises. Bye, thanks for listening. Bye.